Hello, everybody. So we are getting very quickly getting near the end of the semester. Today ends Module 6 as far as class goes, which means there's only 2 weeks left. Uh, there have been a little bit of couple changes in some of the groups. People dropping the class, I guess. Some people dropping the class, other people just seem to disappear or whatever. I plan to be very lenient when I grade the final projects. Uh, Talked to a couple people yesterday, and it seems kind of late to be changing the groups now. So I guess try to get as much as you can, but if you want to try to rearrange groups or something, let me know. But we don't know, there's just 2 weeks left, so there's not a. I think there's at least 2 people active in every group still, from what I've heard. Hopefully that's enough to do, make some progress in them. But I plan on being very lenient. I've always planned on being very lenient. Right? Those are very tight. Get a bunch of games made and go over stuff. Got a couple things to go over today. One of them is there's people come to schools, get a good job, make good money. So probably want to have an idea of how to monetize this knowledge, right? And developing games, that's fairly straightforward. Like you set up your Steam account, sell your game when it's finished. But we have another way that is actually very, very profitable for games. What's a good way to some way to say this? There's a lot of people that like to say they're game developers when uh, they go purchase some pre-made art assets and then download and then copy and paste a script directly from a tutorial and the art assets move and um, they start using the label game developer when really it's more like just having an internet connection. But there's a lot of money to be made from that.
The asset lumber thing.
Yeah. Yes. So, right, we've looked at how to make models and do 2D animations and things. When we tight time constraints, just all the basic. It takes a lot of practice, but once you get those things together, that's a real there's a really good market for that. Make some assets, put them on the store where you can. Well, some the nicer ones charge a few dollars for those. Uh, put up some free ones so people will download it and then throw together a website or YouTube channel where you're just giving tutorials, walking through how to make those assets do things in the game. And it's a nice steady flow of income. Uh, so I wanted to make sure and look at that. It's a good way to quickly monetize things. Or when you're making assets for a game, maybe you have a big, huge game in mind, you make a few different assets, choose the best one, and then the rest of them, you can still make a little bit of money off of those. So I was thinking about looking at some of the four most popular ones to sell assets for Godot on, since that's the engine we've looked at. Unity asset store is fairly large. Obviously, a good general start would be some sort of search. Uh, just go search game assets for Godot. That's what I searched earlier this morning when getting ready. So for Godot in particular, it's an open source project, so the official asset library, what we link to from the game, you'll notice there's not any price tags on here. And they also all have this MIT. That's the MIT license, the open source license. So the official asset store for Godot is for open source stuff. They're basically free stuff. Make something you think would be very beneficial to people and you just want to share it and help get your name out there. Be really good for that, or see how people use your stuff. You can put it on there. But we're talking more maybe monetizing this stuff. any of our game engines, itch.io is a great place to sell stuff. Just set up an account, and as you make games and assets, you can also obviously sell your games and or individual assets here. Just set up an account, and then there's basically an upload button and a little form to fill out how much you want to charge for the stuff. This part's really, really easy. You just have to look for the different sites. We don't have them here. One of the best ones can be GodotMarketplace.com. Those Google searches. I put the four most popular on the list here. GodotMarketplace.com, which you know I've been to a couple times. And this is one of the more popular ones for really nice models on Godot. We just go check 3D models. Actually, there we go. You see the going rate for 3D models is around $30. It's on sale. The going rate's usually around like $40, but it's one of those things that's constantly on sale. So you put $40 on there, and then they'll put 25% off. They really good. They really got bucks. I'm sure everybody's seen that in the American way of selling stuff, right? We put one thing on the price tag, but then that item is constantly on sale. So what the actual price is never what anybody really pays. Some of these things, like a 3D model of a banana, not going to be a whole lot of animation in that one, but still on there. And if you're downloading assets, like selling games, making your income that way, paying for models, if you want to go the other way and actually buying models, remember that is a business expense for making your game. So it has a nice effect on tax season. Lots of them on here. This is probably one of the best ones to go sell stuff to. So just Godot Marketplace, an easy name to remember. Also has plenty of free stuff as well. Probably a lot more free stuff, but click on 2D. Yeah, usually a wide range of stuff. So ranging from $1, free things. We just saw those $30 models, $3 to $5, $15. So 5 to 15 is probably typical, until you have the really good models. It's probably hard to tell in some of those pictures. Those $30 models would be the photorealistic ones. I guess you can kind of see from that picture. That looks like a real statue. So obviously that costs a little bit more. If we apply the filter, gotta get down to cheaper stuff, 10 to 30. Where's apply? I was expecting like oh, I guess the filter. This,
High pressing filter.
yeah, that was a button, not a label. There we go. Yeah, those a little more cartoonish change, but that's probably the best place to go sell stuff. And really, it's very easy. Just create an account, and when you do that, you'll basically see an upload button and fill out a little form. Another good one that has been popular lately, some tutorial sites started promoting this, I think, and it's been growing in popularity, is a Godot Assets.io. People have been going to this one to buy stuff a lot lately. And more were showing up constantly as over the last year or so as Godot gets more popular. This one, yeah, so this one has a lot of even full game demos. So you have an idea for a game, you work on it for a while, and then decide not to go any further. Sometimes you can sell those or give them away as free for just examples for people to use. And save a little bit of time on figuring things out. Or it's another place, a good resource to look at when you can't find good information in tutorials. You'll probably notice that tutorials always have just the introductory steps, especially in game development. So if you start looking for something a little bit complicated, you just find tutorial after tutorial after tutorial. It gives the same intro steps and they don't take it any further for the point you're actually looking at. So going and downloading some of the free game demos might be a good alternative for that. Those are all demos. I'm gonna filter this. There we go. Models. This site is fairly new.
On all, there's only 2 pages.
Yes, yes, this one is new, but it's a popular channel started promoting it very, very quickly. Actually, he might have actually set that up, but that was fairly new, but it's not a lot of assets yet, but it's been getting a lot of hits as far as people showing up and purchasing stuff. Artstation.com is another great one that works. It'll be good for any of your engines, especially Unreal. I assume when there's not such time constraints, a number of y'all are planning on jumping into the Unreal Engine and seeing how much of what we went over in class here translates to that. Definitely a very popular one, but this would be the place, this would be the main site to go to for Unreal assets. Or one of the better ones. And a great way to sell stuff, but they have plenty of things for all of our different game engines. Just search for Godot. Tons and tons of effects. And whenever it's specific for an engine on here, they do put the logo of the engine so you can see which one is actually going to go for. Actually looks like a tutorial. I haven't clicked on that one before. It looks like they have actual tutorials in there to watch. How much do these cost? I don't see a cost on here.
There, it's on the wrong side. It's
Oh, $250.
38 fabric fiber alpha. Okay, so it's fabric fibers.
Okay, yeah, so that's not even the full model. That's just
The material is
the material for his clothing. So just a portion of the model.
which makes sense because that's Mr. Incredible.
Yeah, so Disney owns the model itself, but
Isn't it Disney Incredibles Silver? Which
oh yeah, it is Pixar, not Disney. My bad.
But they don't own Pixar. I'm 99% sure.
Oh, I mean,
Yes.
I remember seeing him in Disney Infinity with a different game.
Well,
Yeah.
they do collaborate and stuff.
But, yeah, there's a lot of collaboration stuff, but those would be the four best sites to go sell assets on. If you make models, and they're all very similar for the selling part. You just create an account. And
Yeah, they bought it back in 2006. Did a lot of that stuff.
you'll see it. Yeah, I can create an account. You'll see an upload button, and then you'll see an upload button, and then fill out a little form for how much you want to charge for it. And remember to go across the spectrum. You'll get a lot more hits if you do some free stuff and accept donations, which can end up really, really good. So if you have free stuff that people like, there's constantly people that are willing to give you more money than you would have asked for it anyway. And as you look through stuff, you get better at pricing things. But taking this class, you probably want to monetize this knowledge at some point. So these are the 4 sites that are the best ones to go to. I'm gonna put it in the chat room. Itch.io, which you can just sell entire games on there. Everything. Godot, marketplace.com. Godot assets.io. And that one's new, but very popular. It gets tons and tons of hits. So it's going to grow quickly. Which actually, part of the reason I included that one is it's new, so there's not very much on there, but word got out about it really, really quick. So if you get some assets on there, there's only a couple pages of stuff. Somebody pointed out there's only 2 pages of stuff on there right now. So if people go check it out, there's much better odds of them finding your stuff than if you say put it on argstation.com. It's probably the best one overall. I'll put them in the chat room. Let me pull that up on the screen so you can see it.
Another good thing is if it does, new one does get popular, then you would be one of the first ones on there and be probably one of the most popular models once it kicks up steam. It is like the others.
Yeah, I wanted to include that because there's not much on there and word got out about it quickly, so. But that's a good place to start, and you just set up an account and make little models, charge a couple bucks for them, see what happens. It's a good little starting point. I'll wait till David writes it down. That seems like good if other people are writing it down as well. Did you get it down?
Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, I'm guessing everybody probably already knew about each other. And then when you make an entire game, selling the game works. Itch.io, you can sell it on some of those marketplace sites as demo. Because if somebody downloads the demos, then they get that entire package and can start playing around with things. Or set up a Steam account, not a player account. There's only 2 options, right? Set up an account on Steam, you can just upload it and ask for money. Or give stuff away for free and get your name out there. Because after people have played a couple of your games and start to like them, then they'll start searching for where you sell games by. When you're brand new, that might not necessarily look at your games if they cost a lot of money, but they'll give them a try if they're free. So that on that side, it's definitely one you want to get your name out there first. Well, again, if you really on something like Steam for free, and just people are really happy with the game, that's one thing where you're liable to make a lot of game donations just because people like your game, they want to see another one. Those usually come in like big chunks. Like if people like your game, they'll donate a considerable amount with the note that you should make a sequel to this. And so it's more like in Steam especially, it's more like they're prepaying for a sequel to the game. So I guess back to making games. The next thing is a fairly useful one. Different settings. It can be used in different situations. Actually, let's go back to the list of course objectives. And there's today's topic. And remind you about these. Because we're getting near the end of the semester, so that thing that I pointed out way back on the first day when we were looking at the syllabus, it's going to be in all of your courses at Ivy Tech. And now is a good time to go check these lists out. So in all of your courses on the syllabus, whoops. Didn't mean to scroll left. Try that again. There should be a section on syllabus for the course outline record, just the general description, all that. But the important one is there's a list of the major course learning objectives, the things you're supposed to learn from the course. And in every single one of your courses, when you get near the end, you want to make sure to come back and look at this list. And if there's anything that you feel like you didn't learn in the course, those are the questions you want to ask. Especially if something is a prerequisite for the next course you're going to take. So when you go into that next course, they're going to expect that you learned all the major learning objectives, the prerequisite. We've been doing quite a few of these. Made a lot of games, spreadsheets and animations, triggers and signals, all of that stuff. This audio quiz due this week, right? Was that due yesterday?
No, it says the 29th.
Okay, so next Monday, yeah, we go find some sound effects, free sound effects like we did in class the other day. Talk about mathematics.
Wait, you just find them and upload them or something?
Yes, so the quiz is just file upload questions. You find a couple, what is it, like 4 or 5 settings, or plots, little situations from a game, and it just asks you to find a sound effect for that particular situation. Looked at physics, materials, team-based stuff. Everybody should be working on that. I think a couple of the groups, like I was saying a few minutes ago, a couple of the groups might be down to like 2 members, but we're getting very near the end, so I worry that it might be more problematic at this point to switch groups versus what those that only have 2 active members could still get finished on their own. This one, the meaning of this is probably kind of changed since these were written. I was on the curriculum committee subcommittee that was working on writing these, so in 2019, we thought something different than what this sentence could be interpreted as today. Like today, it almost sounds like going and asking chatbot to generate game scripts, which still doesn't work. I go over there periodically and just spend some time on chatbots, just asking for stuff and critiquing what it gives me, and got my whole machine learning thing, so it gets better and better and better, but it's still they're not doing good yet. They're kind of lousy. They're getting better though. Like when they first started to get popular about a year and a half ago, that's for like a human model in Blender or something. The scale of the rigging that could be animated, and first couple it gave me was just a sphere with an armature inside. That gave me a whole lot. They've got.
It also depends on what you skid.
Hmm.
Like what, like, because I know that some people use them for like mods for some games and stuff. So like, I think depending on how popular it is, so that like that. People doing it.
I've been going through it in a few places. I'm not the only one that does that. But team learning, they have no idea what it is, so just have to spend time teaching it to do that. That's what people probably think of with this sentence these days. But that is more the traditional game AI is what that was. So we might need to rephrase that, but that's the thing to look at for today. Yeah, sharing projects, I guess that's like what we were just talking about. I kept talking about monetizing it because if we're taking this class in college, we're probably thinking about doing this for a job and making money with it, right? But similar things, and then that ties into group work as well. How do you share the files? How do you make sure you're all working on the same project? Cross-platform development, we need to do some builds at some point still. But this one, which the meaning of this, or the way this sentence can be interpreted, has definitely changed since we wrote it in 2019. Is referring to the more traditional sort of AI in the game. So I guess a good starting point on that is going to be navigation measures, moving our character around. It's nice in we're going to create a new project called navigation. It's really nice in role-playing games, I think, because then the normal control keys, the WASD, and then the other one, are all free to do other things in the game, like pull up menus, sort through it, swap between inventory items and all the different stuff we would have in our game, and movement can just be handled entirely by the computer. Sort of point and click movement. We're going to talk time constraints, so it's going to be a little bit shorter. As first off, we need a world plan, so I'm just going to go with the Blender and create a quick landscape and a box character. Actually, I haven't given you all my character yet, have I? But let me pull up something else. So, opening Blender or Maya or ZBrush, whichever modeling software you want to use, and starting with the cube and turning that into a player can be a very time-consuming process. So, I sort of jumped ahead in the process and went to a different starting point. There's actually probably something else. I was making a plugin for Blender of like to quickly get background characters, a bunch of animals and stuff that were measured correctly and stuff. I haven't worked on that in years. But I did pull out the human models and get those. Because first off, we'll get a world and then we'll look at that. And it's like an add mesh button, is where the plugin actually activates. I'm just going to give you all the Blender script directly, so you just run the script and get it. But it shows up in the button like add mesh, and instead of starting with the cube, we start with something that's human shaped with appropriate sizes and stuff like that. We'll get there in a second. First off, we just need a landscape, something for a character to wander around in. We saw that button already. So I add a little landscape model, and it's probably really small, so I'll make it bigger. I'll just scale it up by 200 in every dimension, and that should be a decent size for a character to walk around in. And in particular, the thing I was looking for here is characters can't walk just anywhere on this world, right? Makes sense for the character to be able to walk around over this hill. But up here, you can see there, the character should have a lot of trouble walking on some of the spots up here. Right? It's kind of like an impassable mountaintop on this one that I just randomly picked. All of the landscapes probably have something like that. But our character shouldn't be able to just walk anywhere in this world. And we want the computer controlling it, so we want the computer controlling it accurate, basically. We want reasonable things. So if like our character starts down here in this divot and wants to get to the far corner over here, the computer knows to take the easy pad around to it. Right? A lot of processing involved. And it takes a long time to write those scripts. So, and just about all of our game engines, they've been generalized and made a component in the game engine. At least and almost all of our major ones. It's kind of a preview of where we're going. I'm just going to throw some colors on here. Grab a new material. Uncheck use nodes, just get a simple one, and maybe some brown color so that it looks like a desert. Brown, not metallic, not specular, but really rough. I'll make a good little desert scene for a character to wander around, I guess. And just like we saw before, I was going to save this in the Godot project. Where is that? Navigation. This desert. Make a new Blender file.
What did you name the game?
I call it navigation. We're looking at navigation mesh is the technical term for the things we're going to look at. I make a new file for a character, and what we saw before was we start with some shape like a cube, and keep adding vertices and deleting vertices, adding bases, deleting, and keep modifying it until we got the shape we want. We can do better on starting points. Which is a plugin I made for Blender, but I haven't submitted this one yet. It's on my GitHub page, so I'll just give you all the script. That's a nice easy way. I have to answer a text. I have to get the text message out. I'll get logged into GitHub for eventually.
It doesn't come with. And why do we have to like struggle into it?
You will see just in here in just a second. It's a script to create the model.
Did you shut down Teams?
462437. Yes, I did. There we go. So if you take my account, it's Francis-Chris5. There's one on there called Blender Human Starter Mesh. Let me just copy and paste this into the chat if you want that. But I'm getting ready to email you the actual script you want out of here. So I think it's this one. Yeah, so you can see just a big long Python script. So there's the one for the woman character, and oh wait, that's not the one. Or was it? Oh yeah. Full hair and yeah, so this one has those on. Been a minute since I looked at it. Sometimes projects just get shuffled to the side for a while. I guess I'll send this out to Learn. Probably a quick way to get it to y'all, right?
By the way, what dimensions did you want making the desk?
I scaled it up by 200. Yeah. Just something big enough to walk around in. Put this as a zip folder. I always forget that with the announcements. I can only attach one file at a time. Do that and paste it in there. And then zip that folder. It seems so odd to only to be restricted to just one attachment at a time. Okay. So within a few seconds, you should get that announcement and Learn and be able to download those files. Or did I put that in the chat? Yeah, I put it in the chat as well. For those logged on to Zoom already. So up here in the top, depending on how big of a screen you're looking at it in, you might need to scroll over to the different tabs. But somewhere there should see the scripting tab. If we go over to that, then we can just run that little script. Basically, that's what a plugin is. The plugin is going to be, it's just, I'll set it up where it automatically adds a button to the add menu. And then that button just runs the script. So just open this and it downloads. Either one. We looked at this earlier in the semester, right? What a 3D model is. We have vectors pointing to each one of our vertices, all the little points in space. And then another list that refers to the indexes indices of them. The index values from that list of vertices to determine what makes faces. And if we do faces, then the edges are implied, and if we do edges, then the faces are kind of implied, so we only have to do one or the other on those. There's a lot. Let me turn the word right. You gotta see how short the little scroll bar got. Lots and lots and lots of vertices, because making a human shaped model required starting with the cube and then going through and creating all these vertices and making sure every single one of them was in the right spot. And kind of a time consuming process. So what I did is just abbreviated it. Then once it's in there, there's the little run button over here. Just run that script. And then instead of adding a cube, it adds the starting point for a character. So the armature's on there, which we don't really need to see. There's kind of metric, has the hair and starting points on the clothes. The clothes don't need modified. That was the last addition I made because I kept using these and it looked like there was like a little naked human running around. So I did add some starter clothes, just turn those into fabric materials and stuff. And select it and go to edit mode. Well, from what you can see, only half the model's there, so humans are symmetric, so we only have to edit half of it, and then the other half is just a mirror copy of it. So you can see there's spaces for all the details to go into. It's a model, a starter model that's ready for the details, instead of starting with the cube and then spending hours and hours and hours getting to this point, and save a lot of the time. I can go ahead and delete that one. I'll turn this back on. Oops. Click all of them, delete that, and then the other script is, well, you can probably guess from the name what the other script is. They're appropriately sized, average height for a human, average width, average build for both male and female. Spent time getting all those proportions correctly so that you can just open this up and add details for a character. So a starting point, if you want to use those, or we just use a cube like we've been doing so far this semester. Yeah, that was an open source project I've been working on, but it's intended to be an open source project, so I don't mind. I'll go ahead and share it with you. Yeah, it's ready for the detail. It's ready for the details to be added in instead of starting with a blank slate and spending 6 or 7 hours before you can even start to think about details. That'll work. I'm just going to save this with the name player. It's also nice because it's very evident what forward and backward is on it. Some of our shapes that generic shapes we might use as starting points. It's not so clear what forward and backward is. Right? The sphere is very symmetrical. And might not be able to tell if it's turning correctly and all that. Just a little time saver if y'all would like to use that. Then as far as our world, we've seen this before, right? Create a new 3D node, call it the world, and I'm just going to go ahead and hit add that generic sum and add the generic environment. So that way we have the light and skybox whenever we go to run our game.
How did you, well, where was the button?
Oh, when you select the root level node, under the little ellipsis, the 3 dots, is more button. If you click that, there should be there's the buttons for that development light and development. Okay. Background. That's a quick way to add those in, but in general, you're probably going to want to add your own environment and lighting every single time instead of just using that generic one. But you can still go in there and do any edits on those and things. Let's turn this to a different angle so that we have long shadows. Make it easier to see when our character's walking around the world. Something like that. Shadow. Shadows are enabled. All that. Looks okay. So, yeah, that button there can be useful to get something going quickly, but in almost every situation, you're probably going to want to customize that more. The development environment doesn't have any fog or anything. You know, desert to that, bring up the desert, and right click and go to editable children. So when you zoom out, change the angle on that side. Zoom back in on the sun and there we go. I'm just gonna change the angle so that we can see lots of shadows no matter where we're at in the game. I guess the direction it was pointing, there was like the shadows were all on the far side, so basically just making it visible. And this is all stuff we've seen before, right? No surprise here. There's our landscape mesh. We want our character to match up to it closely, so I'm just gonna come over here and create a dry mesh static. That way we have a really nice the solid surface on the ground to refer to. And I'm going to turn the visibility off on that. That way we can look at our ground. We're going to see something else there in a moment. But make sure you set up all the collisions beforehand. I'll give this a save as world. Nothing new there, right? We've seen that stuff at least a couple times at this point. And then I'll make another scene for our character. I'm going to start off just what we've seen before. So character body 3D and put the player model in there. And sometimes our models do this. That came from the rigging. It's trying to bring in all the a bunch of animations at once. Whenever that happens, to fix that, we just have to go. If you come over to the files and double click on that one, it'll bring up the import menu. Eventually, that's growing. Okay. And under scene, all these options on the right. If we scroll down, there's check marks on. Under nodes, it says all modifiers. You make sure it says all modifiers. Because I remember that character, when I went to edit mode, it was only half the character. And there's a modifier that's just mirroring that half we had. So we want to put all those in. And under meshes, under skins, you'll be all influences. Switch that to 4 influences. And that'll take care of all that extra stuff that came into it. What it is other possible positions that it thinks that body would go into. Well, whenever I closed it, it kind of looked like it was like flapping its arms around. If you saw where those meshes are. When we switch that to 4 influences and hit re-import, it should fix those issues.
I don't see that all. I mean, mine import without the blur. I don't see that button.
You don't see that at all? It should be there, but.
Oh, there it is.
Wait.
It's in a different spot.
It's a really big menu. You might have to look for it, but make sure you change under meshes, skins, 4 influences is probably what you want every time. The other influences would be bringing it in from the physics engine. And when you bring a model over to your game engine, you probably want to use the physics in the game engine instead of trying to mix the physics engine, instead of trying to mix two different physics engines. So we want the ones that are just the modeling influences, not the physics influences. But a little starter character still needs some details, but it gives us something to look at quickly, right? Looks like the way it's positioning positives he is forward. So that's important to remember when we get to our script, but it's a really quick thing to figure out whether it's positive or negative Z that's forward. I'll add a camera to it, follow this character around. Camera 3D. Bring it up. Oh, notice how as I start moving my mouse, what's happening with the camera, and then it suddenly jumps to the next block. So for some reason, it's snapping to the grid. The button for that is not labeled here. This whole thing looks like a upside down horseshoe up at the top of the viewport. That toggles snap to the grid on and off. So if you're snapping to the grid, just click that. And then it should move freely to any position you want it to. So I'll bring that up. Something like that. And maybe I'll use transform to rotate that around 980 degrees. That's probably a good view of our character. We'll walk around the world with that. Maybe could angle it down. I'll do it like that. Save that. I'll call it player. And we're gonna name this one so we can tell where it's at in the thing. And then just like we saw before, I'm just gonna throw in that generic character basic movement template. Because we are gonna need to do some scripting soon, so we'll need a script attached to this eventually. All of that's kind of old news, right? He's still missing. Camera so we can see it. Shape. Yeah.
Collision.
Yes. Yeah, I was gonna say which shape, because we can use shape for all of them. Because we have our logical, which is the character body. Then we have the graphical, which I guess could also be considered a shape. It's the shape we see. We need the physical shape. For this one, it's all in different parts, but we could still do that try-mesh static, but that's gonna get every single face on there, right? There's a much. That'll probably slow it down even at this point. At least on my computer, I'm on the cheapest computer from Walmart. Some of y'all probably have gaming computers that keep up with that for a while, but it runs out fairly quickly. So the character, a box would probably cover it, or a still in
Capsule.
capsule. Yes, capsule is a good shape for you humans. So I'll add collision shape again, nothing new.
Which would be because this isn't a static body, but you need something like, if you were to do the tri-mesh thing, do something other than static body or?
Oh, you can use the tri-mesh. So there's two different parts. So tri-mesh can go on anything. Tri-mesh stands for triangulate the mesh. So it creates a bunch of triangles that perfectly match the mesh you have. And then the static body is non-moving. So you can use tri-mesh for the other ones, but there's also less subtle ones. So if we hover over these, like a convex, it's a single collision shape, but a simpler geometry at the cost of accuracy. Then so tri-mesh static gives us a static body, but right below it is tri-mesh collision sibling. That just gives the collision things and keeps it as a character body. lots of, different options. A good one for characters, though, is made that the child, the wrong thing, I wanna make this the child, this, there we go. A good one for characters is, a cylinder or a capsule, yeah. Look at both of them, so. On this one, moved it up, so. I have the character, the origin is at their feet. Whereas when I generated that new, physical shape, the origin is at the center, so if I just move down with, I think 1 meter, it should line up perfectly. And then this character is like 178 centimeters tall. I did spend time on those starter ones to get all the averages and stuff correct. See how a cylinder kind of fits in the really, really nice, fits the shape of a character really nicely in its own. Roughly the human shape, we could probably scale it down a little. 9.9. Oh, wait, that's rotation. Which I put in the 0.9s here. And notice the signs all typed in one, they were locked in place, so this little icon over here unlocks that so that they can scale separately. That seemed to fit the character a little bit better. There's also a capsule. These are very, very popular. It's like a cylinder, only it rounds off a little. A cylinder with rounded off edges, if you can see the lines there somewhere. The lines all over the screen, but the thin blue lines are the ones that actually define the shape, and that covers the shape of the character really, really nice. Which by default is like 2 meters tall and 1 meter diameter. 1 meter radius. 1 meter diameter, yeah. 2 meters tall, 1 meter diameter, which is slightly larger than a human. The average human's 178 centimeters tall, so 1.78 meters. Or male is. Average female is a little bit under that. Yeah, or just drag it to the right thing. There's different options. Those accurate ones, you can kind of see the number of voices here, right? We have that point. And then there's like 4 little things around it here. A similar thing on the bottom. So a few more points than the rectangle, but not many. Just a couple numbers to use, and then the computer knows what pi is, so we can calculate the rest of those numbers pretty quickly. Figure out what the rest of them are really quickly and give enough values to the GPU. But remember, there's always a trade-off. Usually we want the accurate mesh on our ground so that it looks like we're walking in the right spot. And that's going to put a lot of work onto the GPU. So we want to back off somewhere else so we don't overload things. So we don't start fires with our GPU or anything. I think that's everything, right? Okay, let's review first again. Now we should be able to just bring our player into the character or into the world. Find a good starting point. Right back up to that stuff we've seen before. Start our character somewhere in this world, and then we can run the game, walk around a little. My up and down are backwards, so I need to change those because I'm pushing the down right now to go forward. Now I'm pushing left and it's going backwards. Pushing right, it's going backwards. That's a easy change in several different ways, right? We have the script. We could just make all these negative, or I'm just gonna rotate it 180 degrees.
Uh,
If we take this whole thing. I could go to our player, hit the transform. And rotate that at 180 degrees. It turns around and the camera was a child of the player, so it followed it around. It's almost like I was prepared to do that, right? So now instead of just making all those numbers negative, we basically just rotated our character so it's now facing in the negative direction. That should give us the same effect of putting a negative in the script. So either way it fixes it. So now we're pushing up. That looks great for up. Push right. Looks like a good direction for right, left, down. And we've seen that before. So quick movements. And yeah, that's another first project I'm working on for the plugin to get next plugin I send to the Blender, contribute to Blender open source stuff. I like contributing to open source, but it's at a usable point to start putting in games to get started. So I'll just go ahead and share it with you all now. Then you can just add details and get the character started. Character shape to start with instead of cube shape to start with. I don't like having a better starting point. It just needs details. But there's a problem here, right? I guess jump ahead. Let's pretend like we set the WASD keys. We did that before. So I'm still having to use arrows, but maybe this is on WASD and you got the character moving around, but it's a fancy role-playing game. And I need all those keys to like pull up menus and quickly switch between inventory, or maybe this character's wizard needs to pull up different spells. And there's a lot of things in this game that I could use those keys for that would be better than movement. Right? The movement's sort of a trivial thing. We just need to know the general directions we're going to go to. We want to do other things. Yes, that's what we want. But we need a way to move around here a little bit better. So that's where navigation meshes come in. It looks like it's a good time for a break, for a nice stopping point.
Also need
What's the camera doing?
well, I'll bring it over some of the back so you can be able to see.
Oh, okay, yeah.
You need to be more zoomed out up so you can see.
Yes.
further To be able to tell if your character would go.
Yes. I was just gonna, for time constraints, I was just gonna do some basic parts. We'll look at how, what's a good way to say this? There's not a pre-built on grabbing the global coordinates from the mouse click. What we get is the 2D coordinates, so we have to turn that into the coordinates on the screen, which is kind of a long script and would not fit in our time. So I did look up a tutorial this morning where we can refer to the tutorial. I'll go ahead and throw the quote marks on it. Right? It's nice. We'll refer to that pre-written script and as a way to do that. I'll point that out at the end. So we'll just use a couple lists, get the basics down.
You're gonna use a raycast on the camera to where the mouse is pointing at to get the location of.
That's one way to do it. There's a couple ways to do it, but yes, we get 2D screen coordinates when we do a mouse click, and we have to turn those into 3D world coordinates. So we have to figure out how our world is oriented. Figure out the difference. It's not difficult, but it's time consuming. We'll just go over the basics of how a navigation mesh works, and then my plan is to leave 2 hours for y'all to play around with it and do different things. Actually, I think what I was gonna do is, depending on what the time looks like after we get it moving on its own, I'm gonna make a list of points so that it goes a preset path. It just goes to different spots, and then a mouse click's easy. But it's a good time for a break. 10 minutes, I'm good, everyone. I see people in the coffee jumping out of their chair. The first suggestion of that. So. My laptop says 2:01. So we'll get back to it at 2:11 and look at the basic idea of a navigation mesh, and then the game engine can handle the character moving around, which is very important for NPCs because we also want to see an NPC. Yeah, we'll look at navigation meshes. See y'all in just a moment.